Welcome to the Theory of DFS podcast. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blender Ed, Blender HD on Twitter. I'm the co-author of The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, the 15-hour audio DFS Masterclass, where you could learn the entire game theory of DFS at theoryofdfs.com. Join with me this week, someone that I guess I consider an OG to some extent. An OG to my, I'm not the OG, but I'm like a pseudo-OG. And it's Jesse Haven, a.k.a. Muleyhaven.
You said it right.
Nice. That you could see I see in the head-to-head lobbies in every sport that I play. Occasionally we get auto match because we don't block each other. Where does the Muley come from?
It's a funny story. My best friend in high school, his grandmother had Alzheimer's, and she started referring to me. My name's Jesse, my first name. So she started referring to me as Jessa Mule, and they all thought it was so hilarious. And then it became Mule, then it became Muley. It just sort of evolved from that. I've always had nicknames throughout my whole life. So then, back in the days when you're starting to sign on to the internet, I had just made my last name's Haven, so Muleyhaven. Most people say Mully, so I'm glad you got it.
Oh, and it also comes down to when you get on the internet, if you're not the first Jesse Haven, you don't want to be Jesse Haven 2. You'd rather be the first Muleyhaven.
Exactly. Yeah. She took a turn for the worse afterwards, but they still pick on me about it. It's one of those things that was just really, really funny, and it stuck, and my friends still call me it.
And you've been playing about as long as I have, right? 5 to 6 years?
Yeah, I checked, and I started playing seriously with a bankroll and bankroll management in April of 2017 for baseball. Before that, I think I started just fudging around in December of 2016, where you just bet whatever's in your account every slate, and I'd never heard of bankroll management. I was getting picks from shows and all that. I was only a baseball fan going into my DFS playing, so I never watched or knew anything about any other sports, and I sort of all learned them on the job.
That's very similar to me, where I started with soccer. So October 2015, it's I know the Premier League, I know Champions League, this is what I watch, so I could be good at this. And then you fool around, and you're okay, $40 here, $20 there. But I mean, coming from I played poker professionally. Did you have a background? Because I always view especially DFS got launched a lot from Black Friday.
Yeah.
And in the poker community, while I wasn't big into the community then, but from the experience of playing professionally for 5 years, going into the DFS lobbies, DraftKings for the first time, I'm oh, this kind of looks like an online poker lobby. Oh, okay, I get and then you start comparing all these poker concepts to DFS, and you go, oh, it's expected value, what prices, and you're looking, and you go, okay, now I have to build a lineup that has a higher probability than these other lineups, and then you get everything it all comes a little bit quicker to you when you've played some other type of game. It could be backgammon, it could be gin rummy. I mean, there's certain things that directly compare. But did you have a background where you were fooling around, but fooling around to me was trying to take those concepts into DFS and learn the game better, and not just fooling around going, oh, I'm just going to pick, just bang it on buttons and never try to get into any type of strategy.
Totally. I have a very obsessive personality. So when I get into a game, I go all in on it, and I think of every possible strategy. So for me, it actually started as a kid, and I don't know if you've heard of Stratomatic baseball.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I didn't play Stratomatic. I played starting line. There were other games very similar to Stratomatic.
Yeah. So back then, you could play in leagues. You could actually play in in-person leagues, and it was so funny now that I think about it. But I was valuing on-base percentage. I was using openers. I was doing all this stuff that the major leagues have eventually started to incorporate. And I was doing that as a 10, 11-year-old, you have these little cards, and I was so nerdy that I'd literally play out 162 game seasons. And this was before, video games kept stats. I kept the stats all by hand. So I was always all in on anything strategically based, like even playing Monopoly. I try to take the best strat.
Right. You want those orange properties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
See, the fact that I know that is like, yeah, because it's very hard for me, and my wife knows this, to play any game like casually, because like my goal is to like, what's the optimal strategy? Like I like even with like friends of ours, and they play board games.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we're gonna play whatever board game it is. I mean, it's typically not complete. We're not playing Settlers of Catan or anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you really want me to come? Because to me, I can't. To me, the fun is finding the optimal strategy.
Yeah.
The fun is not the let's drink a beer and have a laugh. It's like everyone's drinking a beer and having a laugh, and I'm like, it's your fucking turn. Like, why are we waiting? Like, it's your turn.
Yeah, we were playing Clue with my 8-year-old the other night. And I mean, I even get crazy with stupid stuff like that. Like, I could tell by process of elimination, I could tell my wife knew the answers, who the killer, murder weapon room. And I said, it was my kid's turn. And I said, you need to guess now, even if you don't know. She's about to win. You need to take, your 5% chance or you're going to lose. And it's just stuff like that you find that you do with your kids even.
Right, but everyone hates you because you can't play for fun. I was very similar to video games. Like me, I had a friend that me and him would play Madden or NCAA football. This is Genesis. So this is even before the PlayStation. And no other kids in the neighborhood wanted to play with us because we played 15-minute quarters and we ran down the play clock. And we ran the ball like 65% of the time. Because if you couldn't stop a 4-yard run, we're just going to keep on running for 4 years. We're literally going to run every play until you could stop it. And then you run a screen pass. And then you could basically go from like 1 or 2 plays back and forth. And then you're playing against other kids. I mean, we're talking about like 12 and 13-year-olds that Hail Mary every play. 4th and 27 on their own like 10. And yeah, I know analytics is like, you should be going for it on 4th down. Not on 4th and 27 from your own 8. When, I'm playing, cover 3 and like, I know like, dude, you're calling the same shotgun. Like, I know the playbook. It's Genesis. These weren't like big playbooks. Like, I could tell what you're doing. And no one wanted to play. We'd win at 47-0 and like, no, we don't want to. And the games would take like over an hour because we didn't want to play 5-minute quarters. We want to play 15-minute quarters. Well, I'm kneeling on, kids would yell because we're kneeling. Right, because it's 37 seconds left to go, and it's I'm kneeling. That's it. The game's over. Oh, it's not, but it's no fun. I go, no. To me, it's fun because I'm never going to be able to be an NFL coach. Yeah, I'm never going to be able to play. I'm never going to be. So my fun is acting as if I'm the coach of the New York Giants, and this is what is realistic. So I always hated the video games where all the unrealistic stuff happened. Where it's like a lot of the baseball games I found were unreal, like in the management end. A lot of times I didn't play. I wanted to be like the manager and then the team. That's why I played like out of the park baseball, football manager, stuff like that. Or the career mode and just have the computer play in like Madden. Because it's like in baseball especially, like, well, there's going to be walks. I'm not going to swing at every pitch. And you know how long 162 game season when you're like, I got to eye every pitch and everything. And it gets untenable where like eventually like the computer's just throwing balls over the plate. Like I got to swing. It's like, I'm not getting enough walks. Like how am I, this is not realistic. I'm not getting enough walks. And then you just get bored of it. But I think me and you, we're the exception. We're not the norm.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I would keep my own stats before you could do like a season. Mm-hmm. So my friends would just be so annoyed. Like after every at bat, I have like a little scorecard there, right? And I'm taking the stats just because I don't want to play one game at a time. I want to break the home run record or something. I want to slug 500. So I've always been like that too, and it definitely annoys a lot of people.
But I think related to DFS, I think we're similar. Like that mind, I think that mindset helps when it comes to thinking like a quote professional DFS player. Because it's hard using that term. It's if you're a profitable DFS player. To me, it doesn't matter whether or not it's your main source of income, your side income, whether or not you're rich and you're good. It doesn't matter to me. Is that I've had to tell many people that like what do you find fun about DFS? And I think 95 plus percent of people that play DFS find, like, similar to gambling, single sports betting, they find it fun to have action on a game. They find it
Yeah.
fun, like, oh, now I could watch all these basketball games and actually give a shit about it.
Yeah.
Or they find it fun because there's like, I think I know better and I want to, I want to beat other people with my basketball knowledge or my baseball knowledge. But coming from that video game example, from the stat example, is like, well, what's your ultimate goal? My ultimate goal is to make money. To me, that's the score. That's like, if I could increase my ROI by 1%, whatever it takes to do so, to me that's fun. To other people that's like, so you're telling me that like every half an hour you go into the like lobby and you hit the entrance button and you look at three mans and you try to find, and it's like, and not for $109 head to heads, but like $5 head to heads and $1 head to heads, even though
Yeah.
you're playing thousands of dollars worth of volume. I go, yeah, to me that's fun. I'm prospecting. That, like, to me that's me trying to solve the game. That's the strategy part of the game that people don't want to do because they don't find it fun, or they don't find it fun to, oh, well, I'm going to take a shot on this guy, that guy. Oh, well, but this guy, like, they're coming up with narratives on why to play certain players. It's like, dude, I'll play anyone as long as it's optimal, as long as it increases my expected value. To me, that's finding the edge is
Yeah.
the fun part. Yet, I think until it's kind of weird to say, until you find that fun, how do you become a profitable DFS player?
Yeah. I always say 90% of DFS for me is game selection. I don't really watch the games. I have to for basketball for late. I don't watch the games, but I follow what's going on for basketball because of late swap. But once my last player locks, I do something else and I don't check anything until the morning. So I'm like you. I'm not really in it for the sweat because we've been doing this for years. Nothing's really going to surprise us or kill us at this point. And
Well, you can't
I
control anything. So, like, what is it?
yeah,
Like, what
it's a
does it
waste of
really
time.
matter?
Yeah, I'd much rather be taking in a movie or listening to music. I prefer like artistic stuff like that over sports anyway. But yeah, like you said, I'm the same as you. I'm always uh, looking for good games all day long. Like you go to the bathroom, you're checking. You're on break from work, you're checking. It's nonstop, and that's the most time consuming part, but it's the most beneficial part
Right.
for
Well,
sure.
especially for you, because you're pretty much strictly a cash game player.
Yeah, I am. I am for NBA and football. For football, I'd probably do about 5 to 10 GPP teams, and then NASCAR is the only sport that I do 150, but I also play cash. NASCAR is the only one I can really do it because I'm so busy with my kids. It's a once a week thing that's on the weekends, and there's no late swaps, so I'm able to MME for that. But
And golf
it's
would be the
really
same way. Like, if you did golf, that would
yeah,
be
and I'm so
similar as
bad at
well.
golf. I haven't really tried to MME it. I tried cash a few times, but have never had much success with golf. But I'd probably play it a lot like NASCAR because of the variance and the fact that people can bust out. Like missing the cut is like crashing, I'd assume. So in NASCAR.
Right. And once like Thursday morning comes around, like you're locked. That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel free to watch the event all you want or play the showdowns or anything, but at the end of the day, I mean, the worst part about golf is that if your lineups are dead, they sit around and you have to look at
Oh,
them
I
through
hate.
Sunday.
Yes, I hate the multi-day sweats. It just, ugh. And especially like if you find yourself like if you check it on your lunch break at work, it just I do not like having any sweats while I'm working my day job.
But I mean, the fact that you just play cash games, I mean, obviously your variance is going to be low. I mean, what attracted you primarily to? Cause like I play both. Like I play everything. So like to
Yeah.
me, like I'll play cash in any sport. I'll play. I mean, like you know what I'm doing this season for NBA. I'm gonna do it for MLB. I'm trying to. My goal, my fun. I think that's the bet. Like you have to find a way to make. I think if we had a theme of this episode, find a way to make the boring stuff fun.
Yes.
So like
Exactly.
uh I'm trying to make it so that I could spend the least amount of time and make the most amount of money.
Yes.
And
That's
like
so funny.
right, so like I could make more money by paying more attention, but where's the diminishing return there? So
Yeah.
like to me for cash games it's like if I could make a good ROI just basically taking projections and just saying, solving the knapsack math problem and there you go, and then focusing on GPP and then only focusing on 5 lineups. It's like, okay, so now I don't have to worry about late swapping 120 whatever. Like how much time to money am I
Oh
getting?
yeah.
Because in the past, it like I spent so often doing large field GPPs and sweating over my cash lineup. Like I'm looking at projections, but I'm still doing it by hand. Should I play this 2v2, this 3v3, this thing, that thing? And then I'm still building 100 GPP lineups. So now I have to spend an hour to go through that and then possible late swaps and head to head swaps. Am I behind? Am
Oh,
I ahead? All that type of stuff. And my attitude is like, how much more ROI am I getting doing all of that versus simplifying it and still being profitable? And not saying that I could go off and watch a movie on Netflix or spend time. I don't have any kids. I'm not going to spend time with your kids, right?
I
Uh,
hope not.
but ultimately, that's to me that's the thing that needs to be that's the problem that's being solved of how much money can I make for the least how much money can I make the most amount for the least amount of risk and the least amount of time, because then once I have that process down, I can now spend the time on other money making endeavors. Now, I mean, like I'm taking finance classes now. I'm learning stock market stuff. Not necessarily to day trade, but it's like I knew enough to a certain point, and I'm like, well, maybe I should get a little bit more serious and see if I can increase, if I can make money that way, and then now use the time for that so that I'm constantly building upon, every minute of my day is monetized to
Yeah.
some extent and to the point in which I'm happy. I don't have to
Yeah.
make $7 million in a year. I mean, just to the point where I'm good. And now I have 6 hours of the day where, like, I don't have to monetize that time. Like, that's the time that I could spend with my wife and have a normal life. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
That.
you have a job, so it's like it's a and obviously kids and everything. So obviously that
Yeah.
takes up a lot of time. Is that one of the main reasons why you play primarily cash games, where
It,
like efficiency wise, as long as you have could beat the rake, like it's the least variance, and you get a decent enough return if you're within your means of your bankroll. You're unlikely to go broke. So like that's
exactly.
that's the index fund investing of DFS, and instead of I need to win the Millie Maker type of thing.
Yeah. I will never enter those top heavy tournaments because I do have low stakes eligibility. If I do MME, I'm just doing all the low stakes stuff. And I totally agree with you. Once the pandemic hit, but right before it hit, I was so burnt out because I was still going to work, commuting 5 days a week. I'd get home, like driving in a snowstorm. You get home at like 6:45, 7 o'clock. You have to neglect your family and crunch. And I had been doing like MLB cash and 150ing for a while, and then basketball. I just got overwhelmed and I really wanted to quit. So the pandemic was a really good reset for me. And exactly like you said, I stopped looking at the slate early in the day. I used to go pull up the CSVs from the night before and study the double up, study every single lineup, every single player, so I could see what sharp players are doing. I did that every day. I started just, I'd have buddies that would text me at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. What do you think about the slate tonight? And I'm like, dude, I don't even look until 6:30 now. I mean, you're just wasting your time even asking me. So I've always just since then, since having that reset from the pandemic and actually getting to have all that extra family time, I told my mindset totally changed, and I said I can grow. I've done this 4 years now. I know what my expectations are, like you said, what my ROI can be, and it's really not going to change that much if I'm building stupid cash lineups at noon that day that are just going to be obsolete. I can go in, run my projections. If there's somebody I want to lock in, if there's somebody I want to X out, but pretty much I stay close to the numbers. And it's just like so much easier, and it's not going to really change that much. A lot of people like to use brain, but I don't know anything about the sport, so my brain plays aren't going to be that good. So why not just go with the math? I do try to use late swap equity and always be cognizant of that. And that's really important. So if there is a projection, maybe if I lose a couple projection points, but I have more later guys, I know Mangone was talking about this, I'll side with something like that. But yeah, minimizing your time and just working on game selection is the most important thing I do now.
Right. Well, some recreational players actually think the opposite. I've talked to so many that one of the questions I'll ask is how much time do you I don't people. I have a 9 to 5 job. I don't have time like you. They look at me, right? I do a show for Roto Grinders at 11 o'clock in the morning and Monday through Friday. I do this podcast. I mean, I do the core. I mean, like DFS is my life. It's my income now in general across the board for the majority. Yeah. And they go, well, you have an advantage on me. I work 9 to 5. I come home. I'm not doing research throughout the whole day. I'm not studying this throughout the whole, and I say dude, you probably spend more time in your lineups than I do. What's the expression? You're not working smart. You're working hard, but not working smart.
Yeah.
A lot of my progression in DFS was figuring out what doesn't matter, not figuring out what does matter. And the longer you go and you start seeing what really matters, you could throw out so much time where you have to spend 3 hours to get, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but the edge is so minimal that what's the point? Why am I spending 3 hours on this? I remember I spent an entire summer analyzing pitch effects data when it came out, Fangraph stuff. And I was doing it manually. So I wasn't even I wasn't plotting stuff. I wasn't in R. I was just I want to see if something is there. And if something is there, it'll appear its head in 3 months. If I just track it, and then I just find that nothing's there. And then I go, so why the fuck am I even looking at any of this? This is there's no predictive, there's such limited predictive ability here that there's no, what's the edge? It would take me an hour every day to go through all of this stuff because there weren't any tools that utilized it yet. And then once tools came out to utilize it, I knew that it didn't fucking matter. So other people would look at it and I go, I've done that. I've gone down this rabbit hole before. This shit doesn't really matter. And anything that you say that it does matter, it's all fucking confirmation bias. Oh, but it said that he hit this pitch. Well, who gives a shit? This is all descriptive information. It doesn't fucking matter to the extent in which you're spending so much time on it. So, to me, the time is not the benefit. Me and you, we're profitable players. You have guys like Awesemo, right? Alex Baker and Brick, Brian Hooper, and most of them have processes. Most of them, when they started, they were spending 5 hours a day mastering the game until you build and as you get better, the less amount of time you spend on it, not the more amount of time. So when recreational players are like, well, I don't have all day like you. And I'm like, dude, if you get as good as we are, you won't need to spend all. You could go from a 9 to 5 job and go directly and pat your kid in the head, right? And you say, kiss your wife, have dinner, and it's now 6:15, and you still literally have no idea who's even on the slate. You have no idea what baseball games are on and what times they're on or anything. And that's the first time you look at a slate, You have 45 minutes to lock. If you're good enough and you have the tools, obviously, like there's no reason you can't be profitable in 45. I mean, just 45 minutes worth of just dead start, like not even like taking a peek the day before. Like you said, the most amount of time you're spending, obviously it's 6:15. You've missed out on like 22 hours worth of contests being posted. So like when you say you spend the most time, I'm a great like every break that I have after we record this podcast, the first thing I'm going to do is go to the FanDuel lobby and see the 100 mans that are the respawns, go through all of that, go to the DraftKings lobby, go into the 3 mans, go into whatever, see what I could find there. Go to Yahoo, see if they posted any more 50-man 50/50s because I want the biggest ones possible. And then you repeat. Then as you get closer to lock, you're repeating kind of that process, and then you're really not building anything until an hour before lock. At NBA, I mean NBA is just come on. What are you building at 11 o'clock in the morning for? And I mean NBA is just stupid. Like a lot of times the lineups that you're making at 7 don't even matter, and that is lock. And it's like okay, we have 17 things to worry about at 10 o'clock games. So maybe I'm just going to just fade the first games because we still don't know what the hell's going on. And then people are still talking to me going, I don't have enough time like you do. It's like, dude, like they're in the Roto Grinders Discord talking about like the night before, right? The night before. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. So do you like this guy tomorrow? It's like, dude, tomorrow, dude, the world may blow up by tomorrow. It's NBA. Yeah. I mean, it's like at least with baseball, maybe you get pitching matchups and you could be like, okay, I could get a sense of this. But like soccer is like the starting 11s could be different all the time. So like when I do the RotoWire soccer podcast, I still do that. They go, well, what's the edge if you're gonna? Essentially, I describe the cash lineup on the show. I mean, it's essentially you'll know exactly where, as long as no starting 11s are changed, like you pretty much know what I'm going to be playing, and I play cash games and I'm profitable. I mean, it's a very small lobby, but the thing is that 10 o'clock comes, 9 o'clock comes, and this guy's in and this guy's out, and it's like, well, how does that affect the team? Well, I'm not going to be there to hold your hand. You're gonna have to you're not going to get the starting lineups until an hour before, so you have to throw all that out the window. But you've shown that like I think it's more common than not. I don't think it's talked about enough in the community or on Twitter or whatever. About how the better you get, the less time that you spend. But do you think that the reason why it's not talked about enough is because especially from the people that do content. So I would consider myself a content creator. And does it benefit, which sounds better? Me saying, I spent 8 hours researching everything, and here's what I found for all my minions. Gather around, and here are thy picks. I have them on these 2 tablets. Than saying what I'm the opposite. I'm like, play what the fuck you want. I mean, as long as you're building a good lineup. Yeah. And for the contest that you're in, like, just, dude, I look at the fucking projections. So, like, just look at the fucking projections and build a lot. Well, what do you think of this guy? I don't think anything of the guy. It's the numbers. So, but that comes down to if everything that you could research is already in the projections, then why am I doing any of the research? But you could understand why a recreational player, like, it comes from maybe it's an American mentality of like, I put in the 8 hours of work, and I deserve to reap the benefits. And when you say it's like, nope, I did a half an hour of work and made $50,000. Yeah, like they don't want to believe that that's possible. Like that's lucky, when in fact that's actually the byproduct of you being good because you can do it in a half an hour.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you know too, but some of the best cash players I know that probably playing 4 or 5 times as much volume as me, playing every single slate, turbo, night. Some of them are going in at 6:55, 5-10 minutes before lock. They have a really good model or a really good aggregate, like they're using stuff like trim, stuff like that, to really... To have the best projections, really, and they're crushing it. It's that simple. You're not going to hear a lot about that type of stuff because people do want to sell content and they want to get ears on podcasts and all that stuff. And another thing I did was stop listening to a lot of podcasts. Like I was telling you, yours is the only one I really listen to. I like the Levitan solo pod, but yeah, just taking a lot of that time out of your life is nice.
Well, the macro stuff, like I prefer the macro to the micro. And it's not that I have
Yes.
anything against the micro. Like the micro would be like Slate specific type of this is what's going on today. Like to me, I just view it as, oh, you're explaining the projections.
Yeah.
Like anything that you like. It's not that I disagree. I listen to the Roto Grinders content. I listen to Awesome content. I watch. And I think for the most part, most of players are good. I mean, I don't disagree. I'm listening, going, yeah, you're absolutely right. But I'm also staring at projections that show the same exact thing. Like there's nothing for me to disagree with. I mean, the guy's the highest point per dollar value according to our current projections. So you don't
Yeah.
have to explain about his rebate round rate is going to go up, or oh, the pitcher throws garbage and he has a ISO from the left side of the plate that's 1,000,000%. Yes, he's literally the top projected play on the I don't need that's another thing. I don't feel compelled, or maybe you do, because we like finding the answers to stuff. In
The
DFS, I
best.
don't need to know why. You don't have, as
Yeah.
long as I have the answer, I don't even need to know. I don't even care about why, because if that's going to be the most efficient way for me to make the most amount of money, who gives a shit? If the projection models if the projection model's good, and I don't need to know why, and it just says this is the line, and you can put this stuff together and build good GPP lineups. What do I care? That's the reason he projects well. What do I care?
The best content is Evergreen, in my opinion. Your podcast is something that you could go back to any episode, and it doesn't have to be based on what happened the last week in NFL or what's going on that night in NBA. Like you'll get nuggets and content that's going to be relevant a year from now. And that was another thing. My good friend John JG, he did the site that we worked on was all pretty much evergreen content. Like you can go back and look at stuff, and it's going to teach you fundamentals and principles and game theory, and I did a lot of cash game stuff on there. And I like producing videos or podcasts that people can that are always going to be relevant, that aren't going to go away in a day. And that's the most important stuff in DFS, as I'm sure you've agreed, because that, like someone like you, your content has always been like that. I remember discovering your YouTube videos back when I started playing, and I had never heard anybody saying, some touts are full of shit, or this is leverage, this is game theory. Back then, they weren't doing that type of content, and it was so important. And like I said, you can go watch those videos today, and they'll still be
Right,
relevant.
my old periscopes where I just get on and just I would just answer questions, and then occasionally I would get so many of the same question that it's like, let me just I'll write this down on little little pieces of paper. I'm like, this is what a projection looks like. This is what but only because it's the stuff that when I started in October 2015. Where is the theory of poker for DFS? Where is that? I want to read that. Where's that? Bales had some books, right? It was a lot of it was still beginner stuff. I saw the game theory and I'm like, okay, I now I understand what ownership does and what causes this thing. Okay, but I mean most of the stuff is like beginner stuff, and I know Bales knows his shit, but it's like where's the 2+2 book? Because that's how I learned poker.
Exactly.
So that's, to me, that's what I'm giving back, and I know from learning poker that the concepts will help you, but I'm not giving away the edge. You still have to apply it. There's only so much that you could do from reading a book. You have to actually do it. Yeah. I can explain late swap dynamics all I want in the abstract, but until you're live and you have a 2v2 versus a head-to-head opponent, and you don't know what the 2v2 is. You could guess, and you go, well, he has this spot open and that spot open, and they have X amount of salary, and based on, I believe this opponent is observant, most likely they're playing chalk this guy, and whoever's there for 4,700. So it's like, or it could, and then you find out it's some other 2v2. So now you have to think in your head, like, okay, probabilistically, what is it? Then you have to compare the projection of the two. Then you have to go, well, is the late swap going into the, maybe there's a 10 o'clock game and a 10:30 game. So you're like, I have a half an hour to see what this guy is going to start his first rotation in basketball. And then maybe I decide to do like, how are you supposed to, how are you supposed to be good at that without actually doing it? How can I explain that in a book other than we'll see what your projected points between the two, calculate the salaries, and go, well, it can't, this guy must have these two guys. Well, is it a must? Maybe 98% of the time. So you have to think of, do you block? Do you not block? Are you ahead? Are you, what times are the games? Like that situation is nuanced enough that every slate it will be different. So the only way that I could teach is by being aware of what that situation is, what the variables that you need to weigh in your head. Because we'll have people even on like shorter slates. Oh, they'll call me like full of shit for saying two of the opposite things. It'll be a 12 game baseball slate, and they're like, I'm just gonna play all one offs. I'm like, that's fucking awful. Like, don't fucking do that. Like stack 5 guys on DraftKings and fucking you're done with it. And then it'll be a two game baseball slate, night slate, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna play 5. They're like, oh, so I'm going to play 5-3. I go, no, that's probably a horrible strategy because you're going to get duplicated because it's a 2-game slate. And so this is the time to play the 2-2s. And you play 2 batters against your starting pitcher. And they're like, but you didn't tell me that that's what you do for like the last, yeah, because it was a 12-game slate. You have other options. Now you're playing an 80,000 entry GPP where like if you set your like against pitcher to be 0 and stacks to be 5, it's like you're gonna have a lineup that's duplicated 74 fucking times because like that's the default what everyone thinks like. So now you could win with a 3-man stack and a guy again like, but those are the variables, like the variables of the slate size and the strength of the field, the entry fee, and all that types of things that like you wrote on Bridge the Gap when it was around. It's still up. Those articles are still up.
Yeah,
those
yeah.
videos are still up. Like I think understanding what the variables are more important than like what satisfies those variables, because I can't tell you what they are on any specific day. In the same way that if you listen to a show and oh, this guy's a good play, it's like, well, a good play in the context of what? It's not a good play in the context of if you're playing a cash lineup in a large field GPP. Oh, but they're all the best plays. You're not going to win that way. Right? It's not in the context of that. So, but the problem is that 95% of people like it's very hard to it's a non-linear way of thinking, and sometimes I get and to me, I don't know about you. Well, me, I because I have to deal with questions. I get burnt out a lot on it. It's the Dunning-Kruger I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, the opposite way. Most people think of the Dunning-Kruger effect as, stupid people don't realize how stupid they are. But it also has to do with smart people don't understand, like, how smart they are in comparison to other people, where I look at them and go, how do you not get it? Yeah. I don't, some of the simpler concepts, I just go, like, maybe you should just quit DFS because, like, I can't put, even when I started playing, I got these concepts. I implemented it took me a while to figure out the nuances to do it all, but it's like how do you not get that, like betting on a 6-sided die roll getting 3-1 odds, like that's a bad bet. Like why, like how am I supposed to help you from here? Like if you can't get that, like you're fucking dead.
Yeah, I've used this example in the past. I know it's because I used to do guitar lessons. I went to school for music and everything, and I used to do guitar lessons, and I'd say 1 out of every 20 kids was actually, understood it and actually practiced and worked at it. And the other 19, you're just taking their parents' money. And what are you gonna say to them? What are you gonna say to the parents after you've been doing lessons for 2 months and they're not making any progress? It's just not everybody gets it, and DFS is the same way, and I'm sure you deal with those trials and tribulations a lot. But it is very fulfilling when you get the one person that does get it and goes on to
beat
play for the
me.
rest of
I
their
don't
life.
want them to
Yeah,
beat
yeah,
me. Then they go on to do better than I do, right?
exactly.
Right. But that's what I rely on. To me, am I the only person that does content that says transparently, here's 100% of what I do. I'm not hiding anything, and I don't
Yeah,
mind me telling you because I know 95% of you are gonna fuck it up anyway.
yeah,
I'm just like, I truly think 95% of you are gonna listen, go, okay, you're gonna buy my course, theoryofdfs.com. You're gonna get a lot out of it, but you're just not gonna apply it well enough, or you're not going to keep pace with the industry, and I'm going to constantly be learning past that and improving my process that you're never going to catch up to me anyway. So what do I
yeah,
give a shit? So why not make a little money on the downside, right? And then you
yeah,
move it up like that. I mean, the same thing of like I'll go on a show and say, here's who I'm going to play tonight. Is that like we both
yeah,
know that in GPP you're going to lose 90% of the time as it is. So like I'm going to be
yeah.
wrong 9 out of 10 times anyway. And then what ends up
And
happening
that's
is like, oh, you were wrong, and you're horrible. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, like that mule. I don't know why I called Muley Man, Muley Mang, Muleyhaven, Jesse. Uh,
yeah.
don't you? Would you agree with me that uh, the o- the the only thing that matters to you as far as proving to yourself or to other people that you're a profitable player is your RotoTracker?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like because I play mainly head to heads and 3-mans, 50-50s, a lot of stuff that doesn't get tracked by like an RG ranking. I don't have anything to brag about. I don't have any like big standing in the industry. But my and like just like you were saying, I don't really care about being transparent because I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to grind $2,000 a month playing cash. If I can get 25,000 a year playing cash, and then maybe I hit a GPP or something and double it, or maybe I have a bad year and I only make 15,000 playing cash, but I make another 10 playing GPP. Am I really going to brag about like a McDonald's salary? But
I mean, it's a side
you know,
salary. It's
so,
not your main salary. But
no, yeah,
I'm
exactly, yeah,
talking about as far as like I know you're a profitable player. Like you didn't have to show me your RotoTracker. I know it from seeing the contest, seeing your lineups, being for
oh
the
yeah,
past 4 to 5 years. But from in to me, that's the only thing that proves like a screenshot doesn't matter to me. One big win doesn't matter. I mean, like just like if you can't show your RotoTracker, then just shut the fuck up. Like
yeah,
I'm that type of like just show it. And what's the big deal if you're in position to? You're not you like you said. Is there a reason? There's no purpose for like. But there are tons of great DFS players that no one knows who they are.
yeah,
Right?
totally. And
There are plenty of them I want to get on the goddamn show, but they won't want to fucking. They don't come on. That
I know a lot of them keep
I
it
have
close
plenty
to
that
the
I have
vest.
DM conversations with that
Yes.
people think that they're bots because
Yeah,
they're not even active that much on Twitter or anything. And I'm like, it would be
yeah,
nice. Can you come on that say that they listen to the show, and they go, okay, would you come on? Because like you're a professional. Like I would look at and go, no, I don't want anyone to know because what benefit? They have nothing to sell. I want to be unknown, just winning everyone's money and like that.
oh
And
yeah.
truthfully, I have to respect that because isn't that the optimal strategy?
Oh yeah, and I'm always thinking of edges, and I probably shouldn't say this, but one of the reasons we weren't getting John was doing his site for free. I wasn't asking for money to contribute to him, and I didn't want to. Part of my reasoning was just getting my name out there as somebody that was competent, so the pros would start to avoid taking my head to heads. Like I was always trying to
Yeah,
think one step
do
ahead.
you really think Empire Maker gives a shit that you're writing on a site? He
Well,
doesn't
I
care.
block him. He's
Right, yeah,
blocked. I
right.
don't have to worry
That's
about
what
it.
I'm saying. Like he doesn't give a
That's
fuck,
true.
right?
You're right. Maybe I was thinking a bit more from like the smaller stakes guys, but
Now
just
sometimes
trying to
they
like
come
get
after
some.
you. No, Jesse, they come after you. I'm playing you in a head to head, and then they'll send you a DM. They say, "Gotcha," like in a $2 head to head or something. I'm
Oh God.
like I played fucking
See,
300 of them today. Like that's fine, but I mean, just realistically, I'm gonna lose like 40, at least 40%, probably 40, 40 to 42% of the time.
Yeah.
So great, you got me today, right? I mean, but
Yeah.
to me, I have to view that as the nice hand in poker. Like if someone,
Yeah.
oh, I got you, and I look at their lineup, and it's like fucking, they got like Lamar Stevens or some bullshit, and their small forwards, like some lineup I would have never played.
Oh
For
yeah.
head,
Last.
I just have to do what you do in poker. You tap your hand against the table, you say nice hand, sir, and you move on to the next slate. I mean, just like you don't want to make them
Yeah.
aware that they're fucking horrible. Like
Last Saturday, I got scooped at a. I think it was Saturday. It was the night Siakam was out. I got scooped on a 215, 109, 50, 20, 10, 5, all by the same guy. I go to look at his lineup. No Lowry, no Chris Boucher. That's a racer. Sorry. Who's the guy that
Boucher,
the center for?
Yeah,
Boucher, yeah,
right.
Boucher. I'm saying that. See, I showed what I know about players. But yeah, so I see that he faded both of them. Guy doesn't have any Raptors. I'm like, I'm golden. Then the guy pulls a Draymond 61 out of his ass, and I get cleaned out. And that was half the money I had in that night. I only sold like $800 a head. And it's just like, well, there goes my night, you know?
Yeah, but when you look at the line, if you look at the projection between the two lineups that you played, you're just like, fine, if you want to play a lineup that's 12 points, median projected, what am I supposed to do? I mean, that's what it, and those are the positions you want to be in.
Yeah, you say, I hope he gets me tomorrow.
Right. You're looking, I hope he won, so he continues to play shitty lineups. And that's perfectly fine to me. But I mean, but you have nothing to gain from, like you said, you have nothing to gain to be transparent. I mean, you have nothing like it. You don't care about pride or anything. I mean, you're on Twitter or whatever, and you tweet it once in a while, but like you're fairly unknown.
Yeah, I'm not doing screenshots. I mean, I respect people that don't do. I like people that win a bunch and don't screenshot it out. Like, didn't Headchopper win like $1 million? And he didn't even make a beep out of it. I thought that was
someone
cool.
else did. I mean, other people did, but I mean, I don't care. See, that's the stuff that I don't really care about or whatever. But still, it comes down to me. It's like, okay, screenshot all you want until you show me your until you show me your CSVs. Like I don't know how much you lost. I don't know how. I mean, like. We all know that this is like what me and Eric talked about a while ago, where someone will see you win 50,000 and go like, well, how much did I win for the year? And they think that it's going to be over that, as if it needs to. You also need to cover all your losses with that as well. So when it's like the number is lower than that first place finish, they go, well, why? It's like, well, that's the reality of playing DFS. That is, you're going to lose more often than that. You look at Alex, he's posted his year over year, and it's shown like an overall ROI of like 4%.
Yeah.
And you go, well, he's the number one ranked DFS player in the world if you go by the volume-driven and RotoGrinders rankings. I'm not disparaging him, but obviously the RG rankings are not the best disseminator of like who the best is. But a 4% ROI, but 4% ROI on like fucking $50 million of volume. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
So that's a lot of raw money, but it's not like most people look at 4% and go, really, that's it? But of course this is 4% daily churn, so like it's compounded. People don't don't like when you play, for instance, you play cash. Do you play a percentage of your bank? Like you sound like you just want to make $25,000 a year as supplementary income to your normal job, to your normal life and everything, which is commendable, which is less than what I'm aiming for. And I consider myself to be the nit with the goals. Like if I could make $50,000 to $75,000 a year, as if I had an entry-level job somewhere, so I don't have to fucking I could just wear my pajamas all day. Like I got the life. Like to me that's the dream. $75,000 a year to not have a boss, and this is what I do. I don't need more than that. But do you play percentage of your bankroll, or because obviously that grows? So obviously the more money you make, the more you could risk, which means the more money you could make. Like it's compounded over time. But you sound like if you have a strict goal of like 25,000, it's more likely that you bank money and you just like whatever bankroll I need for this expected return, like everything else you're just putting into savings, your college kids fund or something like that.
Yeah, no. So what I've heard you discuss this too, and I think this is another way we're very similar. I started with like $1,800, and I played maybe like 5 to 8% of that. And as I've grinded it up through the years, when I say 25K a year, that's like what I'm talking about for cash games mainly. And then anything on, I could lose a little in GPP or hit a bank or something. And then maybe it's more in the 50 to 60 range.
Right, but you're not playing high value. I mean, you're not playing like everyday high volume GPP. So it's so it's not going to be these big swings or anything.
Yeah, no, NASCAR is the only sport that it would be like that for me. But even then, I probably have like 30% of my volume in cash for that. So, yeah, so the games, obviously, if you're like me and you withdraw the higher dollar head-to-heads before they sell, like at 657 or whatever, some days you're just not going to get the volume. Like I barely go over like 1 to 2%, and some of that is by choice, and some of it is just because at this point in the NBA season the games aren't selling as well. Like some days I won't sell any 109s, some days I won't sell any 50s, so I'd never know how much I'm going to have in play on a given slate, which sucks, because if you didn't sell as much one day and you had a killer team and then the next day you sold more, that can be a bummer. But I really don't ever go above 1 or 2% of my bankroll, because I hate losing like 4 figures in a day, and it's just not worth the stress to me. And that does cap my upside. Like obviously somebody that like Osimo, if he's grinding a 5% ROI and I'm grinding a 20% ROI, he's still making a shit ton more than me, obviously. Right. But that's just sort of what I'm comfortable with. And I could be playing a lot more, but I just don't enjoy the day-to-day stress of having a ton of money on the line. Like I will for football and NASCAR, like weekly stuff, but I never really go that high over 1-2%.
Yeah, but it sounds like that you prioritize finding the softest action.
Yes.
Overall, yep. like you wouldn't like I'm similar. I extend myself more than you. So like to say that I'm not the nit of this episode. Like, yeah, if someone if in soccer, like in a sport that like I consider to be one of the best in the soccer lobby, if some rando posts a $1,000 head-to-head, I'm taking it. Like it just, and there's some soccer slates where I barely get $700 worth of action. Like it just like, and I'm not going to play Saramek. I'm not going to play Pew. Like there's a Pew and Old T and whoever the normal regulars in the lobby that like, they're probably better than me, but I mean, at worst, we're within the rake. So it's like we're just trading money. That I don't. Since it's not my main sport anymore, it's not the thing that's what I'm doing. So I got to beat those guys also. So I have a soccer slate where I only have $500 worth of action or $700 worth of action. But in like basketball and other sports where there's obviously a busier lobby, like I prioritize the same way as you. I want the softest action. So I'm going to post head-to-heads, see what gets taken, go into 3-man lobbies, fill up the single entry double ups with the biggest fields first. I never play the multi-entry double ups. I try to play the 50-50s, the non-guaranteeds, but of course they don't fill up all that much. So I'm trying to allocate as much as I can to that. But still, I'm trying to still get a return. So while if I was to play $3,000 like tonight, I mean like just based on my bankroll tracker, I'm going to be playing $3,800 or so tonight. Like that, it's 10% of my $20,000 bankroll, starting bankroll according to my spreadsheet, which only was 10% of my overall bankroll to begin with. So technically, I'm still only playing about 1 to 2%. As it is. So it's very similar to you. That $3,800, I'm going to first start filling it up with the softest action I can find. But then once it gets to I still have $1,500 to fill. Like, I'm not going to go into the multi-entry double-ups or anything like that. But it's like, if I'm playing the same people in my double-ups as in the head-to-head lobby, I'll just let those 50s, I'll just let them just auto-match. Just to whoever I play. I know the edge is, I'm losing edge because overall, but I'm filling my quota, and I don't think I'm a dog in those matchups. And I look for overlay at the end 657, and maybe you find a $250 double up that you weren't originally in. That's now like 8 out of 11. It's like if I could catch this at 10 out of 11, like okay, and then that's where I fill stuff up from there. But like I never go in with this variable notion of like I'm playing 3 different sites. So if I can't find it on DraftKings, I'm going to find it on FanDuel. If I don't get it on FanDuel, I'm going to find it on Yahoo, and I'm going to fill up that $3,800 regardless, even if the last 1,000 is really kind of like, really truthfully, do I have to even play? It's so marginal that do I even have to play it? I'm not sure if we're doing anything that different other than like I know what my risk is every slate, while you may not know. So like when I do get the good slates, I do benefit. Like it's consistent enough where I don't have to like to do what I'm doing on the tracker, which is tracker.theoryofdfs.com is what I'm doing for NBA, and it'll be for baseball. There'll be a tab for baseball. Like this can't be a consistent experiment if my action goes well. If I sold soft on some days and didn't sell on others, it's like there's no constant there. I have to like it has to be around 10%, around 60% head to heads. It's not going to be like that every single day, but as long as I'm somewhere close, then I could say over the course of a season, this mentality, this system produced X. So, but I mean, you're not running a system like this, so you don't have to concern yourself with. But also, your goals are so much more meager in comparison to mine. You're playing less volume, I mean, compared to me. So, like if you were to do what I'm doing, like $25,000 is that's a pretty low goal for the type of ROI. Like if you're playing $3,000-$4,000 a day, like then $25,000 is like if you can't get that, then maybe you should quit playing DFS. But at your level, you're even 5 years in, you're still at the point where because I noticed before you said you couldn't take a 4-figure loss.
I mean, I can. I just don't like to.
Well,
like,
no one likes to, obviously. Yeah. But
I certainly do a lot. Don't worry. I did like a couple days ago. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just usually because I have so many head-to-heads, it's not. I don't get these wipeout type nights, but they happen, especially in NASCAR or if one of your players goes down. In NBA, I just have one lineup, so. I have a really bad lineup, I could lose just about everything.
Right. If someone gets injured, right? Daniel House gets injured mid-game or something, right? Yeah. It's just like, uh-oh, I hope he's high owned because if he's not, I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm saying, but it also seems like you try to take as much soft action as you can, the softest that you could find at least in comparison.
For sure.
But also as far as minimizing risk, that your head is more on straight, that you are not doing this for a living.
No, and I'm happy not to.
But was there a point where you thought that like you could do this for a living? Or that you could do it for a living? You're just not worth you like your life as it is, and it's just not worth the risk.
And I have because I've been with the state for 15 years or so, and health insurance and retire. Like I can retire in another 10 years or so. And I'm only like 38 right now. So I don't want to give that up, so I like my job and I'm comfortable doing it. And I don't want to have to rely on DFS income for like paying any bills or doing it, because you never know what could happen. Who knows if it could all go away or if the games could get so hard that I never know. I can't always bank that I'm still going to be able to, beat the rake. Who knows when the day could come where I can't. And so I just haven't really.
And it can be, but you could also admit that it's not that the game has gotten harder, but maybe you haven't kept up with your skills. You never know if that's going to be the case.
See, I think I feel a lot more confident with my skills now, but the games aren't selling as much for me personally. But I do feel like I'm comfortable with myself playing a player of my caliber from 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I know there, especially with cash, there are not a ton of fish left, and it may just you may just have to play a player that may not have as much experience as you, but is still like playing every day and still has all those projections. And so it just, it depends. I'm not trying to like hit anything huge, and I've never considered playing for a living just because I've been more invested in my career, honestly.
Well, so but if it gets to the point where cash games are like are solved to some extent, or you're basically trading rake, like would you consider investing the time in like, well, I'm gonna get good at GPPs, like I'm gonna shift
Yes.
because I that's the one thing that it always comes down to. To me, it's like, yeah, I'm trying out these smaller field stuffs, right? I'm looking at the field going, I'm playing against the Colts and I'm playing against Rinpack and Chip My Money and Eric and Scorer Patrol. I mean, I'm just going through, and it's like there's no one I don't recognize,
Yeah.
like really.
No,
And then I look in the large field GPPs and I download the CSV and I'm like, there's a lot of garbage in here, and
yeah.
it's like, but those GPPs 100K to first and seventh place is a kick in the nuts, and it's like
Yeah.
that. Well, that's why I'm experimenting this year. I'm trying to figure out like right now, just to put things into perspective, on my RotoTracker, right now I'm up. Even bring it up because I just uploaded yesterday, so like this is right up to date. So for the year, I'm up right now $28,000.
Nice.
So now, yeah, it included a nice 10K in a soccer GPP. So like that helps. But let's say like if I could even half of that over a 2 month period is 14,000. So you
Yeah.
multiply that by 6. That's 60,000. That's $84,000, which is
Awesome.
above my goal. And
Yeah.
you know what's great? I've haven't had the large field GPP swings. Just don't exist anymore. So it's like how do I reconcile that in my head? Going, I may get it may be more beneficial to get to my goal, which is just $50,000 to $75,000 a year, without playing probably the contests that have the biggest edge, which are the large field GPPs. But then on the downside, I don't have to worry about fucking having to bink one in order to make the money for the entire year. Like essentially that's what you need to
Exactly.
do. You're gonna have to win one. If you don't win
Yeah.
one, like you're dead. And that
No, I
stress
hope
of just
people are
like, and you don't know
listening.
when
Yeah.
that's gonna happen. So like it could be the beginning of the year, it could be the end of the year. So like I think I'm more towards your side now. But you have to admit, Jesse, that it's hard to have the cognitive dissonance of I could play cash games and small field single entry GPPs with better against better players, and at the end of the year end up with the similar amount of money with less stress and less time investment because I'm not building 100 lineups versus playing in the contest with the worst fucking players in it, but it ends up becoming a lottery because like outside of the top like 100 lineups, like I just hope, let me get a lineup up there, and then at the end of the
Yeah.
day it's just variance, and I hope I get there, and I hope I get
Yeah.
there a couple of times throughout the year. uh but those contests have the most amount of edge, so like why am I not playing those? Like it's just from a like a poker perspective, like it's like I see a table with a bunch of bad players, but the game is so high variance that's like that. I know that in the long run I'm going to make more money there, but it may not happen this year. So
Yeah.
do I want to go on that journey versus playing in a game that was much more stable? And I look at the table and there's 10 people there. I'll be the 10th person, and there's seven players that I'm like, I'm not getting any money from. And then like two other players that are like kind of average. And I'm like yeah, I could probably make money in this game, but if I was able to sit at each table for 5 years, I'm gonna make more money in the fishy high variance splash around the pot game. But in the 5 year period, in my second year, I actually may be down $80,000, like in the
Yeah.
process. So like you seem to have it under control. You seem to have no, like, you don't mind playing against other decently good players if that's what the chance is, and that is what it is. If you find good action, you find good action. And I, I don't know how to. I don't know how you not look at the large field GPPs, knowing
Well,
that there's because you're specifically looking for the softest action, and you know
yeah.
it's there, and you still don't play it.
Well, so I do for NASCAR. Like, here's an example. Like this Sunday,
What is
I
it?
got second.
What is it? Why does NASCAR? Why would you do it for NASCAR but not for NBA or MLB or an NFL?
NBA is just too tough with the kids. Like having it be on.
Oh, so
On weeknights.
it's a late swap thing. It's not a
That
a
too. Yeah,
sport
and then just
oriented
managing when I take focus away from my cash lineup, and I don't. I don't just run an optimal at 659. You know, when I take focus away from
You
my
say
cash
that like
lineup,
that's bad. That's what I do.
No, I know. But when
hey, if you can't beat it, don't complain. Hey, if you can't beat it, that's on you.
Yeah, true. But so like a good example, like NASCAR this Sunday, I got second in the mini max. What I do is I do the JG method where I flood the low stakes with 150. So I have like 900 entries. I copy paste my 150. I put it in the mini max, and then I scatter them across all the dime times, all the quarters, all the dollars, all the $2, the $3, the $4. So the lineup I got in that tournament would have won the $20 20 max. So I did the math and I said, well, I had a 13% chance to get that lineup in the 20 max, which would have been 25K. So I was just, and instead of being like, I hate when people do that, like, oh, I didn't have this in the right tournament. I just looked at it from a mathematical standpoint. I won, over four figures with what I had because I had the lineup in the mini max. I had it in a $2, had it in a quarter arcade. But just to give yourself a 13% chance to have that lineup in the $4 20 max and win 25K is exciting. So I totally see. I love 150. I just don't have the time with basketball. It would be my wife would divorce me, honestly.
It's less the risk tolerance and more of the time. That's why like golf. I could see you do like the stuff where it's like it's you done once. There's not really a late swap element. There's not a late lock. I mean, the only thing in golf that you probably have to do, and it only happens once in a blue moon, is wake up by 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever, just in case Louis O stays in or Jason Day withdraws. I mean, it's always the same fucking guys, right?
Yeah.
Right, you have to go, okay, if I'm playing Louis O in my lineups, that means I got to wake up early because who knows? or Daniel Berger, it takes one fucking swing and then withdraws, and then he fucks everyone. So I can understand. So it has nothing to do with.
Yeah, it's a quality of life thing. It's just, I grew up with a single mom, so I'm very conscientious about being the best father I can be, and DFS takes a lot away from the kids already. So I've been, what does Levitan say? Smell the roses. I've been trying to just take more days off. I know that I'm pretty much the opposite of Mangone. It sounded like he needed an intervention or something. But yeah, I love that guy. But I trust me, if I was as good at NBA as he was, I probably wouldn't take days off either. But so yeah, it's just, it's a quality of life thing. And another thing, we sold our house over the summer, and the housing market in Vermont right now is booming. So we made a good chunk of change on that. And I had originally told my wife that I was going to give up half my DFS bankroll to buy a new house. But we decided to rent now because, it's kind of fishy to sell high and then buy high. So we're kind of just waiting out the market.
Right. Because the housing market is like, it's a extreme seller's market.
Oh yeah, you'll get a crappy house will get 20 showings the first day, and there'll be offers 30,000, 40,000 over list, and you make an offer 20,000 over list, and you're done. So we decided to play it smart, but so part of my reluctancy is that I am saving a part of my bankroll for that eventually, because that's sort of been my end game anyway.
Well, we both have this. It's kind of weird. We're both that's my end game. Also, it's like DFS is going to buy us a house.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, to me, that was the not the end goal, but like and I'm in the same spot as you. Like, look at the housing market now. Like we're currently renting, and it's like people It's like people are getting offers on houses without showings
Yeah.
for 20%, 25% above list. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
why the? But obviously mortgage rates are low, so it's like,
Three years ago.
yeah,
Three
but
years
the
ago,
problem is you're getting to you. Who cares? You're paying that interest in the house isn't worth that much. Like I'd
Yeah.
rather the housing prices go down and me pay more mortgage. But what I'm hoping for is that like I'm not going to have much of a mortgage because I'm going to be essentially paying for 60+% of it just
Same. Yeah.
up front.
Same here.
Like up front, I don't want to
Yeah.
pay mortgage interest. Like
Yeah.
my goal is to never pay interest on anything because it's why not just save the money and just fucking buy it?
Yeah.
But of course, I don't want to spend 100%. I don't want to buy it outright because then a month later, some bullshit happens and the house blows up. And then it's like, it turns out that something disclosed on the sale and then you have to go to court and then you don't get that money for 4 years. So if you finance something, then at least you're not like throwing all your money away. But of course, but it's still the same, Jesse, it's the same mentality of what are the boring things? Like you made the smart choice of like, yes, renting sucks, right? But
Oh yeah.
you're gonna save more money even if you pay a year's worth of rent. You're gonna save more by getting a better house when the market
Oh
turns
yeah,
around.
and I don't have to mow the fucking lawn. I don't have to go to the dump. I love it. My wife doesn't like the smaller space, but I freaking love it. I have more time with the kids, more time for DFS. I mean, it's been great for me.
But essentially, you're viewing it as an investment, and the most prudent thing to do is
Yes, and
you want to
that
find
my
the soft
wife,
action, and you're finding that all you look around in the housing market, and all you see is Empire Maker.
Exactly, and communicating that to my wife has been the difficult part, but she's really starting to get on board. Like, why do we want to buy high? And what if we want to sell in 5 years and the market's back to, and yes, I think she really gets it. Even she's not a fan of renting, but she definitely is on board now, which is nice.
So but you had these clear goals from the beginning. I mean, to me, you're a lot of anti what people would think of when they think of a DFS player.
Oh yeah, and what one thing, like November, I had my worst downswing of my career in 4 years or so, and I started to really think, well, what is a bankroll? How much more am I willing to lose before I just walk away? So maybe what I actually have in my bankroll isn't my true bankroll, And that was kind of another eye opener to not play as big, because what do you call it, a stop loss or something like there's a certain point where you'd have to ask yourself, well, maybe I can't beat the games anymore, and maybe this so and so thousands of dollars is where I'm out. And I'm just going to say, okay, the rest just goes to our house, So it's just stuff like that just made me really consider how I should be approaching my DFS play as well.
All right, well, that's why I just like to look for extra income sources.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I meant what I said on the first episode of the new year when I feel ashamed that I made more money content-wise than I did in DFS, because that was the first time that I played DFS to play DFS. That's the reason I play, is to make money playing.
Yeah.
The course, the RotoGrinder stuff. That's to me, that's the safety net. That's the, like, I'm doing all this stuff anyway, so why can't I get on a show? Why can't I? I mean, I'm not writing out picks. I don't do that type of stuff. So it's like, people ask me questions. They ask me the same questions a million times. Why don't I put it together in one place so I could be fast asleep, and someone could just buy, and you could listen to me anytime you want. And that's like that to me. That's like the residual type of income. But I didn't get into this to do that.
Yeah.
Like to me, it was like yes, I have these are the side things, and if I make money off of that, great. I mean, that to me, that's a smart investment. I don't have to do it every day, right?
Yeah.
The course could sell itself for 5 years, 10 years from now. Okay, great. But at the end of the day, like I'm playing for a living. You're not even playing for a living, yet you still treat your DFS play as if it is like you have budgeted in this money as part of your income, of your lifestyle.
Yeah, totally. And we were looking at houses a couple of years ago, and we put in an offer on a house that was a little out of our price range. And I said to my wife, I will come up. It was only like $150 extra a month that we kind of were concerned about. And I said, I will come up with that. I'll just pay that out of DFS. And even that was a little alarming to me. Like, I didn't want to ever have to depend on any DFS income for bills. I always just wanted to use it for like vacations or saving for a house or something like that. So, but hey, it would have worked out, and it's just good to know we have that as a safety net as well.
Well, I mean, not DFS DFS as a luxury.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not really a safety
the money
net.
that we banked over the years, like when I won my first GPP, when I won the 30,000. It was January 1st that I won, so I was all worried. I had to wait a whole year for taxes, so we ended up putting most of it in her IRA, to avoid some taxes and everything. And that money is stuff that you can take out for a house too, which is really nice. So,
right, in a Roth you could do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so your first like $10,000 or $15,000.
Yeah, so I used the rest to pay taxes, and now it's just sitting there. So. Yeah, I can't get a divorce, huh? Right. She has it.
No, I like bringing people on the show that this is the reality of DFS, and it's not all like, well, I won $1 million here and $500,000. Like, to me this is approachable. Like, to me, if most people that play recreationally to make. Oh, I can make $25,000 a year, $50,000, $75,000. To me, it's doable. It's not, but it's just that it's not sexy.
Yeah,
it's not.
And
you're
gonna want to quit a few times a year.
Yes,
I still do. I mean, it's not sexy. It can be stressful as hell, and the wins don't feel like wins, and the losses feel horrible. The wins feel like you're just doing your job, So,
right. Right. The wins aren't. To me, wins are just and the losses are right. I think that's a good way of describing it. I feel horrible, like I on an NFL week where you bomb and like at my volume, like that's like that could be $8,000 to $9,000, and it's just like, well, that sucks. And I know that like that bad of a loss means that like outside of GPP stuff, like it's gonna take me a month to dig out of that hole.
Yeah,
it's gonna take a while to dig out of. One bad week will set you back a month or two.
Oh yeah, that's how I felt in November, totally. And luckily, I dug out in December, but it was not a fun month either. Just being down that much,
Yeah, but when you're playing, I think it's a little bit different if you're playing 1-2%, sub 5%. Like you have to, if you think in terms of percentages, it obviously when you think in terms of 5,000, 8,000, like. What you think of, what can I buy with that? And you go, oh my God, I lost a Honda Civic. I lost a used Honda Civic or something like that. But when you think in the grand scheme of if you have a $250,000 bankroll, it's like, I mean, dude, my stock portfolio goes down and up and down on a daily basis. I mean, it's a weird dynamic to go like, I could look at my stock portfolio go down 3% and be like, oh, it's a down day in the stock market, and tomorrow it goes up 1%. And then, by the end of the month, it's actually up. But 3%, if you have a $200,000 bankroll, a 3% loss is $6,000.
Yeah.
So like when we lose $6,000, it's like, wow, that sucks. And you're down. You're like, I gotta dig myself out of that. Yet that's like your stock portfolio could like that's. Yet I could look at that and go like, It's not like it's. I look at my like no Invesco QQQ like none of these Nasdaq 100 business. They're not going out of business, right? Like like exactly. It's like none of these things are going to zero. Like maybe they go to zero 30 years from now, but like I don't have to worry about Apple. Like my God, Apple's down 3% today. I gotta get a job. Like no, Apple's still going to be around. It's not you're not going to lose all your money in the stock market.
Yeah.
So people, I mean, they could follow you. Mule Man G, or is it Mule Mang?
Mule Mang, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So why is it called Mule Mang then? Why not Muleyhaven? Is that taken?
I don't even remember, honestly. I used to listen to a lot of Ween back then, and they always used to always say Mang in a lot of their songs. So I don't know, man.
So
Is it Ween? Aren't they from your neck of the woods?
Ween?
Yeah, you heard of them? They're
No,
from
I've
Hoboken?
heard the band name before. I've never heard
Oh,
the
okay.
music.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can never tell when people say my neck of the woods because like I'm originally from New York City.
Oh, okay.
So like I live in Louisville, but I mean I always have to say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like I don't Louisville's not my hometown. Do I sound
Yeah.
like I'm from Kentucky? No.
Yeah. I got to tell you one funny story before we go, Jordan. I'm at the park with my kids. This was Sunday, the NASCAR slate. I'm at the park with my kids. I had crunched all my 900 lineups, put them all in the spreadsheet. I had my cash lineup worked out. Somebody got sent to the back, Bowman or somebody, but it didn't really matter that much. About half hour before the slate starts, Hamlin gets sent to the back. He was on the pole, which totally changes the dynamics for his scoring. He gets sent to the back. I get the alert on my phone. We drove my wife's car there. My wife didn't have her coat. It was freezing. I grab her keys. I jump into the car and I go, I got to go home. I'm leaving you guys here. I drove home. I re-crunched. I had about a minute to spare. And I got my cash lineup. I didn't even have time to run any projections. I just hand-built my cash lineup the last minute. Luckily, somehow picked Byron, who ended up winning it. I drive back to the park. My wife is just so upset with me. She's pissed. We drive. She's already ready to leave because she's cold. I brought their jackets. We drive to the store. She drops me off to get some beer for the race. I come back out. She's gone. She went home and left me at the store. I thought, hey, that's warranted, man.
How much did you win?
Oh, I think I won like 1,100. Oh yeah, so I won 1,100. She recently, like last week, she actually finished her online masters, and so I gave her the next day. I gave her a card with $500 in it. A congratulations, like graduation cards.
Right.
That's what you got to do.
You learn. You watch my video. You learn the first rule of DFS.
Yes.
The first rule of DFS is when you win, you bribe your significant other.
But it's one of those things where you left your wife and kids behind at a park. It's freezing cold. Your wife forgot her coat and it's like, this is my life now. And the Friday before, the power had gone out at my apartment. Somebody hit like a traffic light or something, and we don't have service here. So I had to drive to the McDonald's parking lot to do my lineups. And it was like, okay, a weekend of this, she must be horrified.
You have to get a generator then. If that's the case, you should get a generator.
I know. Well, I live in the middle of town now in the suburbs, and the power never goes out. It was on some freak thing, but yeah. Okay.
But crazy. I mean, I would get a generator.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought you'd enjoy that though. It's like one of those, like, this is my life now, huh?
Well, I never go anywhere. See, the difference is that I have no kids and I don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So like, what's the?
That's the way to play DFS.
Right. That's exactly. I have a perfect DFS life of like.
Yeah.
I don't really. There's never a situation where but I do if me and my wife are going out or doing something. Those are the days I just don't play DFS.
Yeah.
Like there's a separation there of like maybe I don't even want to even have the stress of like, well, I got to check my lineups. I got to check starting lineups, right? I get a notification. Is the pitcher, even in baseball, did the pitcher get scratched?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, DFS will be there. Like,
yeah.
You don't have to play every slate. It's just, it is what it is. Because you probably don't play like every slate, like the turbo.
No, I've been taking a lot. Like I took yesterday off, not realizing the All-Star break is on starts Friday. So I was like, well, I guess I shouldn't. I didn't know I had a big break coming up. But yeah, I've been trying to take like 1 or 2 weekdays off just to be more present with the kids. It's a lot. I heard you talking about NBA burnout on one of the last pods. And
right. It's just mentally
it's
draining. It's just like, oh,
yeah.
I don't want to have to deal with this tonight and just like whatever. So that's why a lot of times I'm just playing cash. Like sometimes even making like 5 single entry GPP lineups, I'm just saying I'm mentally drained. There's a lot of news today. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to be using projections as it is. So it's like at 7 o'clock lock, 6:55. Give me the lineup for each site, and then but I see when the tip offs are of the next 7:30. There's the next thing. So at 7:25, did anything get updated? Okay. Then I go and like to me that's mindless because it's like I don't have to make any mental energy because the way that I'm doing NBA in cash, The whole purpose is to do no mental energy.
Yeah.
Do
No, I like that.
Do you find that experiment intriguing? I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean, I know like I said, a couple of my buddies are doing that, and they're making out like bandits. So I think it's.
But do you think it's a bad thing though?
No, do you when you run your optimal, do you factor in late swap? Like, like if there's a questionable guy late? See,
No.
that's where I would say it's not optimal. But if it's working for you,
No,
I
no,
mean,
I know it's not. No, okay, no. I know that's not optimal. But the purpose of the thesis is, can I take my projections, which are the RotoGrinders projections, and can I profit at the end of the season on all three sites, diversifying? So the key part of it is the diversification.
Yeah.
Of multiple sites, inside playing head to heads, and triple ups, and like I'm spending most of my time throughout the day just entering contests.
Yeah.
And weighing, and also I'm looking sometimes at 6 o'clock, because now I have to find the last 1,000 of my volume, and I'll look and I'll see based on what the top optimal is. I go, DraftKings, I'm fading Westbrook. I probably shouldn't do that, but that's mathematically, that's what it's telling me.
Yeah.
But I know Westbrook's going to be 70% in cash. Maybe and then on DraftKings, I'm just going to start entering triple ups, because I'll get at least, if I'm right, if the thing is right, and then maybe I play more of the volume on FanDuel, and I go.
And if you're fading a 70% guy, you might as well just scoop the whole lobby, right?
Right.
Because you're going to be fine against even regulars. So
right.
That's what
I'm not withdrawing my head-to-heads or anything. I'm just I actually want to stay away from the double ups. I want to basically be in triple ups and head-to-heads. Or if I'm going to play $3,800 worth of volume, I'm going to play more of it on Yahoo, because at least I look at my Yahoo lineup and go, yeah, that looks like something that I would have chosen to play. Yeah. Rather than just whatever mathematically it tells me. But to me, that those are the keys to that. But the thing I'm concerned about is that I'm doing this. I know, in the grand scheme, there are plenty of people that don't listen to me, watch me, don't know anything about RotoGrinders or nothing. But like you said, you have friends that are essentially doing what I'm doing. And if it turns out that at the end, because right now, on my cash bankroll tracker, I'm up $18,769. Yeah, I post this publicly.
Yeah.
And I show the chart and everything. And I'm down on DraftKings, but way up on FanDuel. What happens if everyone's done? So, I mean, what I'm trying to prove is that if you have a good enough projections, that the market is still inefficient enough that alone can make you enough of an ROI that, I mean, from a time efficiency, we talked a lot about time efficiency on this episode.
Yeah.
How appealing is it to say, imagine telling someone, do you know anything about basketball? And they go, no. Literally never seen the game played. Yeah. Never seen it played. Don't have no clue what the scoring is. Never heard of any of the players. Don't even understand it. And say, well, I'm going to give you this CSV file, and at these times, press a button, and then enter a lineup into this thing, and then at the end, and you can do that for 6 months. You're going to start with $20,000, and then you're gonna end up tripling your money. From the perspective we're talking about time efficiency, the most amount of money for the least amount of risk and the least amount of time. How is that not? How does that not? How do you beat that? Of other than hiring someone for $5 an hour to do it for me, right? So I don't even have to do it at all.
Yeah.
So, but don't you think the byproduct is that obviously the more efficient the market gets, the less that this could possibly be, or it could be that over the course of this season, it's profitable, but the methodology is actually negative EV, just so happens to be positive variance. I'm thinking of all the caveats of if I do make money, is this sustainable? Or if I don't make money, does it prove anything? I mean, because like, are my choices better than others? I mean, I just don't know, but I can't judge it without a benchmark. So to me, if I could use this season as a benchmark to go, well, I did it exactly this way this season, ended up with X. I could decide to do that next season, or but the thing is that it's not necessarily the Roto-Grinders projections. It could be your own model. I mean, like, to me, it's the same thing. You could use Fantasy Labs, use ETR,
Yeah.
aggregate them all together, use whatever you want. But the thing that most DFS players would find the anathema of is that, like, I'm not using my brain, like this methodology and uses no brain power. What's like you asked me, oh, do you take into account late swaps? It's like, no, that the purpose of me is so, like, I'm literally making no decisions. If the projections get updated at 657, whatever the hell it is, it is. And I know that Harrison Barnes and so maybe are more likely, I could read through the tea leaves, but they're still listed as questionable, and I'm going to treat them like they're in the projections. And if something happens late, then whatever. Because for every time that the swap, like, you should have waited for the better value, there are plenty of other times where you wait for and it doesn't come, or you get the value and it still doesn't get there. So, like, to me, it's a wash. And if, to me, staying as a constant of, do I have to think about this? And if the answer is yes, then it's not part of this method. Like, it has to be something where I could let my wife do it, and she would be able to do it perfectly as well. Because that's the only way I think you could get that benchmark.
So let me ask you this: at 7:59, are you going in to your, say you're using RG Optimizer, RG Optimal? Are you going in and locking the guys that have games that have started and then Xing out the games? So you're still running them through the night at least.
Right. Yeah. Quitting. Projections change if LeBron's out and what. Yeah. I'm doing, but I mean, I'm locking. But the guys in the beginning, it's like if I locked in, like we had yesterday, in case Embiid was out, you would have played all the Sixers and not as much of the Hornets. Like, well, now I have Milton in my lineup and Danny Green in my, like. And then, but if something happens later,
forget it. Yeah.
Right, but no. I'm not just plugging it at 7 and then just going on with my life. I mean, because it's NBA.
Yeah.
Baseball, I may not have to, rarely ever have to do that because most of the lineups are going to be in. Worst case scenario, the Dodgers or the Giants have a late lineup, and then the batting order has changed. Most likely, that's not going to change. But no. You thought I was just setting it.
Yeah.
And no. But the other thing is like, I'm also not late swapping if I'm behind. Because that's another thing. Because, like, I can't have my cake and eat it too. So, like, if I know that in the last game, like, De'Aaron Fox is chalk and he's the last spot in my lineup and I'm 10 points below the cash line and everyone has the same PMR, like, I should be switching to Buddy Hield. I should be if I had the choice.
Yeah.
But for
if you're mangoning it, no days off, you know.
Right. No, but I know that that's the optimal decision. And I know that once I stay on Fox, I've essentially said I'm losing $1,300 tonight. Like, because, like, there's almost no way for me, maybe some head-to-heads or something. But for the integrity of, like, the methodology, I can't. How do I swap? I mean, like, the whole point is for me to not make any decisions. So, and there are plenty of times where it's worked out where I look at the lineup and go, God damn it, I would never play this line. I look at this and I go, I feel like I'm donating tonight, right? You look and you go, it's trying to jam, because a lot of times the medians, you're trying to jam in stars and scrubs.
Yeah.
And you look at this $3,800 guy and you go, why the fuck am I playing the guy that's going to play 16 minutes? Because he has high usage of 0.92 point per minute. And you're like, holy shit, I hope this fucking guy gets there. And if he doesn't, I'm dead. And then he puts up 35 points and saves the shit out of me at 8% ownership or something. Like, for every good thing, there's going to be a bad thing.
Exactly.
But I just hope, one thing I hope is that if you're paying attention to the experiment, that I don't want more and more people replicating it. Because then what do I do? I play the second optimal now? Because the differences are, I've always said that. Like, dude, the top, like, 5 lineups you can make from your projections are typically like like nothing from each other.
Oh yeah, that's why I don't care. I don't care about going down a little, or I mean, what is back test them at the end of the night.
Right. Right.
You'll see how.
But do you think I should do? I said I think last week that if this works out, that maybe next year I aggregate, or I use one, but I use like a 6-sided die.
Yeah,
and just like, because but the thing is that I have to take the choices out. But obviously, if everyone's just going to be like whatever the top projected lineup is, like they're going to play also. Like there's going to be more expected value, especially in triple ups and 3-mans, for the second one. But then people will play the second. Like it becomes this game theory thing of like, what do people think that you think type of thing. Exactly. And very similar in Rochambeau and rock, paper, scissors. Like if you could use a randomizing device, you're unbeatable. You can't. I mean, that's the Nash equilibrium. You can't possibly be beaten. Now you're not going to win, but you can't possibly be beaten if you have an equal distribution that could be randomized in rock, paper, scissors. Not saying that you'd ever be doing that, but there's no bias you could have because no one could look at you and go, "I think he's going to go rock." It's like, I'm going to go whatever the dice say, and you're not going to know that. And you can't predict that. So, like, am I being over concerned about this?
No, it's working, right?
I mean, no. But it may work too well. I don't want it to work that well.
Yeah. Well, give it another season, maybe.
I don't want people also doing the same thing. But that's the main reason why I told like Cardi. I said the bad projections, you gotta raise the price.
Yeah, I wish a lot of those. I wish ETR would raise. I wish a lot of people would raise prices.
I mean, you use you don't do your own projections.
No, I try to aggregate. Sometimes there's not enough time. You can also use TDA, which is an aggregate, and there's another site that I use that I'm like 99.9% sure it is an aggregate, but they don't advertise it as such. But I really like them. And I won't say who it is because I'm not sure. I don't want to like slander them or anything or say something that's not true. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can use. But it's good to check the optimals too to see what other people might be on that just sub to one site.
Right, because you'll look and you go, PJ Dozier's going to be chalky. Right, you're gonna go and you look, because like one source has him a slightly higher, and it shoves him in instead of someone else, and then you go to another side and you go, people are gonna pay up for this guy more like, and obviously if you aggregate, you're gonna get a kind of a sense of all that. DR,
anyway. DR has been a little off the board this year. I think in many cases it's been good, but their optimals I find will often look a lot different than some of the stuff you'll see around the industry. So yeah, it just depends.
Right. But a lot of people don't know that. Don't know, like, it's like, dude, you could just press a button and print money. Like, how do you want that? Do you want that to get out?
I mean, no, not really. I guess.
Right, but you understand the difference. It's like I'm doing this experiment. I'm using my own money, so obviously I want to win. I want to win money. I'm putting my own money on the line saying that this is going to be profitable. So that's the bet that I'm making. Instead of betting someone else or doing a projection challenge or anything, I'm just like, I think I could just take one source and play it like this. And yeah, in the course of one slate, anything could happen. But at the end of the season, end up with an ROI that would be similar to if I put the time in to do it myself. Yeah. And if that's the case, then why am I spending the time to do it myself? So,
yeah, because what are the brain plays? How much are the brain plays from your head going to beat the ones from the optimizer and vice versa? I'm sure it's all a wash.
Right, the 2v2s and all that type of. I mean, because I take a look at everyone else's lineup. I take a look at Mangone's lineup and go, okay, he played that line. I know what the lineups are.
Yeah.
I look and I know that it's gonna be a combination of like kind of these 4 lineups.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, who played that? And Empire played that. Occasionally, Utica plays a 2% own guy, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, but I mean, whatever.
And we hope to have a certain amount of our action against people that aren't even on that 2v2.
Right.
You know, it's like, that's how we make money. And if we can sell like a 109 or a 215 or a couple of 50s like that, that can really help too. You know?
Yeah, but the more and more I talk about it, the more and more maybe those 109s and 215s end up having the same fucking lineup as me.
Could be. I mean, I see that. I'd say it's about half and half with me. Sometimes it's a 2v2 or it's something that looks sharp. Sometimes it's complete garbage that fades the Raptors. So it just depends on the night sometimes. You know?
Okay. So Mule Mang.
Yep. Mulemang.
Right. And you have nothing else to plug, right? You're not doing anything.
No, I don't do any services. I'm always happy to answer DMs. I get a lot of, after I did the John pods and the articles, I got a lot of DMs from people wanting to know about cash, a lot of GPP guys. So I'm always happy to answer questions.
Right. And you're a true grinder. We're the grinders. We're the
course,
true grinders.
Yeah.
We're you make $800 in a day. Who cares? Okay, great. Okay, give it to me.
Yeah, it's been a great 4 years. I've taken my kids on lots of great vacations and bought clothes and done stuff for my wife. And I'm really happy I found DFS, as tough as it can be at times. You know, it's been a nice run.
And many of the people in the community are nice.
They are. Some of my well, you lose so many of your real life friends, right? Being in this bubble. So yeah, my God, I have made some of the best people I've ever met are in DFS.
And some of the worst people you've ever met.
Yes, yeah. That's why you got to get those secret discords.
Right.
Get with the people you like.
The secret chat, right? It's all about the secret chat, whatever that is.
Don't invite the fish to the secret chats.
Right, of course. When everyone has the same lineup, because the 14 players are underpriced, and that's the only lineup you could possibly put together.
Exactly.
Right? Because I see that. Like, you have to say, like, we never talked, right? You take a look, and it's like everyone's colluding. It's like, dude, I want to beat these fucking people.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was the best lineup, and apparently everyone else did also, because it was that obvious. Okay, so the 15-hour audio DFS Masterclass, Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports. Pick it up. Theoryofdfs.com.